Hello and welcome to the All Blacks edition. Are the All Black Stars burnt out? So yes, that's the title list for today, and we'll be talking about that amongst also having a chat about sort of Mariella Desma's feedback from the game last weekend. I might have a quick look forward as well. It's going to be dearie me, it's going to be a solo show tonight. I think if so. It probably won't last quite as long as normal. So, strap yourselves in. Restream should bring all the comments together from Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. So do feel free to drop your comment in there in the live chat. And if you're listening on the podcast, well, thank you very much. But we are live at 8 p.m. New Zealand time if you want to kind of watch and join in. So, first up, there was an interesting article on rugbypass.com where they analysed how have the All Blacks changed since 2015. And one of the changes that's happened in international rugby in particular, but also in club rugby as well, is the challenging at the breakdown. Obviously, there are less players challenging at the breakdown nowadays. There's definitely this approach that a player in the breakdown is one less standing up in the line. And so basically the breakdown doesn't have as many bodies in it anymore, which means the defensive line has got more bodies in it, and it's more organised and it's harder to break down. And so what we've seen is much more of a structured two-wave attack from the All Blacks, with the forwards obviously being much better handling than they used to be, and than 2015. That in 2015 it was much more free-form, and there was less plan around it, whereas nowadays it's pretty structured and there is a set plan, a set move, pretty much every play. Now there may be options off that the players are making as the play goes through, but it's still players know where they're supposed to be for that run. It's not it's not as off the cuff as it may appear sometimes, and you can probably show plays where the players are running in the exact same places but the ball goes in a different direction, and so it looks like a totally different play. And that kind of structure does mean that the players have to know where they're going to be, have to know where each other's going to be much more so than they used to. So does that mean that more stable teams will do even better nowadays because they've got to know those structures, got to learn those structures, and that takes time? I don't know. That's one of my that's kind of one of the thoughts. And when you've got we had an article in one of the New Zealand press talking about bringing through younger players, and perhaps some of the stars didn't actually deserve their places as much anymore. The headline picture has Sonny Bill Williams with Jack Goodhue in the background, obviously, because Sonny Williams is always the lightning rod for these kind of things. But I think with with the more complicated attack, that actually the stable teams are more important. And I don't agree with Mark Reason, who wrote that article suggesting that it was time to bring youth through. I think there's plenty of youth coming through. I mean, you've got players like Dane McKenzie. You've got Goodhue coming through. Maybe not the first choice, but he's there. You've got quite a lot of, obviously Rico Iwani's come through, and a few other players as well. And obviously the props, we've got brand new props in there, and Scott Barrett. I don't think that the All Blacks are slow at bringing players through at all, and I don't think so. I think he's well wide of the mark on that one. The other point about these more complex attacking plans is you require the skill set for it. And if you look at something like the Aussie forwards, for example, they don't really have the skill set to try and carry off some of the plays that they're trying to run, which is the other part of it as well. The forwards need to be much more ball handling forwards nowadays than they used to. You've obviously got the way the All Blacks run now. You always have a couple of players ranging out wide, now it's around about 2015. That used to be Kieran Reid, but now Kieran Reid's come actually played more central and looking at the six. Quite often plays that role, but you've got those guys, and you rarely have. Whereas it's the 2015 one, it used to have a couple of pods plus two guys out wide. Now you can see that being much more split up. Sometimes you'll have a pod, sometimes you'll have a series of just two players, and quite often you've seen Frivzel and Scott Barrett both going to the line together. So you see the forwards perhaps pairing up rather than being the pods that we saw before, giving you more options. Again, obviously, a pair is, you can have more pairs and you can have pods. So those sort of things it's kind of interesting to see how it has kind of evolved over time. And you're seeing it's not just the All Blacks, but it is all definitely around that defensive piece. And that does, to my mind, leave the opportunity for teams to play mind games. And we've seen it happen occasionally in the past where the defensive team will actually flood, or not flood, but say throw two extra players or play extra player at every breakdowns, either continuously or on a ad hoc basis, and that's then the attacking side has got to try and respond to that, because if they get driven off, if they get counter-rucked too frequently, obviously that breaks up your. It definitely slows down the ball and can also lead to you losing the ball as well if done effectively. So we might see that some sides may decide actually one of the ways to counteract the All Blacks and other teams as well is to attack the breakdown occasionally, either on a random basis or just more in the first half, and see how quickly the attacking sides can respond to that. So anyway, that's one kind of I think interesting. I think more sides should try doing that to attack the breakdown on a random basis every third or fourth ruck, for example, and then just try and make the, not only do we want the attack showing the defence different pictures that they have to respond to, but also the defence showing different pictures to the attack to make them have to think on their feet as much as possible as well. You know, a lot of the stuff around the 2003 England side, obviously I mentioned before, is teacup, or thinking clear under pressure, and a lot of that involves running scenarios ahead of time. So people have actually thought through scenarios. So when the scenario happens, they've already thought it through. They already know what the answer is. They don't have to figure it out there and then. And a similar to that is the way that the All Blacks play and the structure and the process they play. In one of the videos by Real Endgames or Endgames, Henry, that he put out that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, was the fact that the All Blacks are a process-orientated team, not a situational-orientated team. They go through their processes, whatever's happening in the game. That does show that we see that because the All Blacks don't take their foot off the throat either. They keep going and keep scoring, whereas other sides situationally might go, hey, we've won it, we can relax a bit here. We don't see the All Blacks doing that. They have the same process, no matter what's happening in the game. They kind of run through the same processes, the same situation, rather than looking at the situation and going, do we need more tries? Well, how far should we push it? No, the All Blacks just push it anyway, because that's how they play. And it works most of the time. It was kind of interesting to listen to, or to read some of the Mario Desma's comments after the game, where he went, they weren't the normal All Blacks that we were playing tonight. I don't think they were that clinical, but we couldn't deliver. We underperformed in terms of delivery from scrum and lineout. And yes, it's true. Let's be honest. The Pumas scrum has not been the cliched or the stereotypical Argentinian scrum for many years now, and it's lazy reporting that that suggests it's so. The line-out did underperform, and other times it has performed well. They do have one. I think it had the most line-out steals out of any team in Super Rugby, for example, in Jaguares, or at least one of their players did. So you've got they have the line-out has not been the Achilles heel that it was in that game previously, but the scrum definitely has not dominated in a very long time. So that we kind of expect. But it was interesting to see that he didn't think that the All Blacks were playing at their best, especially when you think that they lost to South Africa the previous game, and they've got South Africa up next as well. You would expect some sort of rebound from the All Blacks and to have them back up to their normal standards. It's interesting that he thought they weren't up there. They're going to need to be. The All Blacks are going to need to be up to their normal standards this weekend against the Springboks. The Springboks will have plenty of confidence from that win. There'll be a great expectation amongst the South African public that, hey, is this are the Springboks back? And just after one game, the answer is no, not yet. They've got to build consistency into their game plan, into their performances. Rather than just and also their performances over the last two games have been very defensively orientated. So, and that's not just by necessity, not just by design, and they've been having to make an enormous number of tackles. One of the things I'll be doing after this weekend's game is going through and counting the number of tackles each of the four teams have made, and to see how different that level is, because the Springboks in their last two victories have made an enormous number of tackles in those last two, and that's not something that you can continue to do forever. They're going to need to evolve their attack, and they need to evolve their ability to hold onto the ball some more than that. So those are the main points that I wanted to have a chat about this weekend. As far as selection goes, I've not read anything yet about how the main media think that that selection goes, but I would expect it to be as close to a first choice side as you can get. So I'd expect that Aaron Smith to come back in, Kieran Reid to come back in. Obviously, I think injuries mean that we'll have pretty much the same 3, 4, 5, 6 in the side there. But if I can't remember the fitness of Franks and Moody, but if they're fit, I expect them to come back in as well. I mean, I can't remember which one of them is, but I think one of them is pretty much is injured. I think Franks is injured, and I think Moody's still fit. Amongst the back three, I expect it to be again Rico, Ben Smith, and Naholo, and we'll probably end up and I'll probably have Sonny Bill Williams and Crotty again in that midfield. So I think, whilst I'd rather be seeing Sonny Bill Williams and Goodhue, I think Sonny Bill Williams, Crotty is who the All Black selectors have as their first choice. So I think we'll see pretty much a full strength side out. The All Blacks want to be making a statement after losing to South Africa in New Zealand for the first time in a very long time, and so they will be looking at definitely stamping their authority and getting a comfortable victory in South Africa. For the Springboks, I would have thought that we wouldn't see too many changes. I mean, Rassie Rasmussen has been tinkering a lot, trying lots of different combinations, and trying to figuring out who his best side is. So it's going to be interesting to see if he tinkers again. But I'd have thought he would pretty much stick with a winning formula as much as possible in there. So those are my thoughts around these two games. I say around this the game coming up. I have done a predictions video as well, so I did that on Monday night. So if you want to go back, you can go back and have a look at that and see what the margin was that I was thinking about. But those are the main topics that I wanted to have a chat about tonight on the All Blacks edition. Do let me know down below what topics you'd like us to cover. Next week is school holidays, so I'm not sure kind of what. Because I think I definitely won't be in this room, and we'll see how the videos go next week. But the week after that, we'll definitely be looking at doing a mock Rugby World Cup. So running through every single game in the Rugby World Cup to see, come to a conclusion as to who we think will win the overall thing and how the groups will pan out, and then also the knockout stages as well. So look out for that video coming. Two interesting videos that I've done today that you might want to go and check out. One is having a chat, giving my opinion about Joe Marler, anxiety, and him retiring from international duty, obviously playing for England. And then another interview where Gareth Mason, or maybe Walking Tall with G-Man, another YouTuber who did a video about should World Rugby match officials be disciplined, and I gave I did a response video to that, giving him my views in response to some of the things that he said as well. So you can go check out his video, follow it up with mine to see what my opinions were as well. So sorry that those two aren't available on the podcast for the podcast listeners. So enjoy whatever you're watching. I'll try and be back tomorrow night with a preview, looking at the match day squads that have been selected, as long as they've been announced, and obviously check out all my prediction videos for all the professional leagues that are happening this weekend.